Hey guys, Simon here for Pro Audio Squad, and today we're gonna be starting a new series. And the series is gonna be about Cubase, and we're doing a beginner tutorial series. So we're talking about setting up your Cubase properly, going for your audio device settings, going for general settings, and then we talk a little about windows, workspaces, editing functions, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can see I'm using the Cubase LE version, which basically is everything I need on this computer, because this is, I call this my mobile audio editing device, and it comes with all the features I need for this, and it comes with all the features basically that I think you need to get started with this. Of course, it lacks a lot of the full content of the full versions, and your number of tracks is also limited a little, and there's some other functions which are not available in this version, but I don't think that these are quite crucial for you to learn Cubase, and so I think this version will just be fine. So my Cubase is now loaded up, and basically it's asking us on what we want to do. So we can browse through some kind of templates we got here already. Pretty cool stuff basically to get started, or if you just want to have a quick session, just recording a quick idea or something, you can basically go for one of these templates, like for example acoustic guitar and vocal. You get like 2 tracks, and just plug your microphone and your guitar in and you're ready to do a recording. Production is the same kind of thing, except it's just a little bigger. So if you choose for example blues rock production, you'll get already a couple of number of tracks and some audio tracks for guitar, some audio tracks for bass, already a MIDI track with a drum pattern in it, so you can just get started into a little more complex productions. Of course you can go for mastering. I don't think this is too good, because basically what it's doing is putting a couple of number of plugins right into your master output. I don't work this way, and I do not use the Cubase plugins when I'm mastering, so basically I don't use this template. What we're going to do is we go for more, and we go for the empty one, because this will give us a blank session, and this is pretty cool for what we're going to do now, since we're starting from 0 right here in this tutorial. You could later on, if you find yourself doing the same steps at the beginning of every session all the time, you can just set up a template and say it's going to be my default template, and every time you open up the default template, your first steps are already done on this. What you're going to do now, you can either choose a default location, or if you want to be prompted for a location, that's what we're going to do. And that's what he's doing already. So I'm on my data hard drive on my Cubase projects tutorial series, and tutorial 1 is gonna be this for now, and I say open, and here we go. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna save the session. So I'll explain in a second why this is becoming important for later. Just hit Command S or Control S on a PC and say we're in our folder and we want to save this, for example, as tutorial 1. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set up our audio devices. So we go to devices, go to device setup, and as you can see right here under VST audio system, my built-in audio from my MacBook is selected, and this basically is not what I want to use right now. You can use this. I mean, the converters and all that stuff are not too bad, especially when you get started and don't have an interface already. You can work with this, but since I have my own one, I'm gonna switch it to right this, and this is the Session IO by Native Instruments I'm using. Little interface, 2 inputs, 2 outputs. I want to switch to this one, and what we're gonna do right now is tweak the settings a little. What you can see right here is the number of inputs and outputs that your device comes with, how these are labeled. So you got your input 1 labeled as input 1. For example, if you say I'm having my microphone going through this all the time, I don't change my setup very often, so for example you can just rename this one to microphone. Later on, when you set up an audio track, set this one mic directly as your input, so you already know what is going into what. For example, input 2, oh, this is gonna be my guitar, it's going through a line input, so I say this is gonna be my guitar. So you can just label these. For the outputs as well, of course, you can either say this is, I don't know, like my output left, on the other side this is my output right, forever. Whenever you feel like you're not quite sure on inputs and outputs, so you set this up once and you know exactly which is going to be what. So we go to the control panel, which is kind of essential for setting up your audio properly, and this might look different, depends on whatever kind of interface you have connected to this. In my case, it's just about to let me change the buffer size, and that's all. And basically exactly this is what we're looking for. So the buffer size determines how much time your computer is given to actually process the audio. So if you go for a low buffer size, you don't give your computer much time, so you have very low latency or delay. If you go for a high one, you will not use your CPU as much, but also you will, let me just check this out. He comes up with 50 milliseconds on the input, and on the output another 52 milliseconds. So if I start recording with this, I get like 100 milliseconds delay between what I'm actually playing and what I'm hearing. So for recording, this is not too good. So I'm gonna change it back to like a low value here, and just for recording and stuff, this might be better. If you're mixing or something and you're using a lot of plugins and all that kind of stuff, this is not so important to be on a low latency. But when you're recording and monitoring your actual signal, you should always make sure you don't have too much of a delay with this. So that's all for this now. Let's click on OK, and we've got our audio setup already. So next thing that we should have a look at is the global preferences. Just hit Command comma or go through the menu, and most of these are just customization things. So you can adjust the colors if you want. If you want Cubase like looking fancy, go for high color intensity, high lightness, and all that kind of stuff. You can change the colors of your meters, the gradients here, by just dragging these faders around, or maybe just selecting new colors for these. This is up to you. Same goes for work area, which basically just sets the background colors and the grid colors for what you got here in the background, or the background of your editors that you're going to be using. So for your workflow, you can make a lot of changes to these editing things. I don't have any recommendments for you. It's just up to you to figure out how you're working and how some changes here can probably improve your workflow. So I got mine pretty much at default, so no big of a deal here. So event display goes the same. One thing I highly recommend is go to General and enable the autosave. And this is why I said saving your session is important in the first place, because if you don't have your session saved once, it will not autosave your session. So this saved me a lot of work sometimes, because Cubase happened to crash from time to time, and the lower the interval for your autosaves is, the less work you lose. So I got mine at 5 minutes, so every 5 minutes he's making a copy of the session, and I set the maximum backup files to 3, so it won't fill up my hard drive unnecessarily. So basically it will just cycle through, and whenever it has made like 3 backup files, it will start overwriting the first one. MIDI is not all too important for you, except you're in an environment where you have like external synthesizers or other hardware controlled via MIDI, so you might adjust these. I don't think this is necessary for you now. Media Bay, we talk about this in a later chapter. Recording, you can set some broadcast wave settings here. I don't know if you're ever gonna record in broadcast wave format. I didn't do so. Basically not too interesting for you. Other thing I'd recommend is go to transport and click this little box right here. What this does basically changes a bit of the behavior of your playback, and if you're gonna hit the spacebar, it basically will start playing from wherever in the timeline your marker is, and For example, if you open up a sample editor and mark a specific area of a waveform, I want to play this back, it doesn't happen. With this setting off, you're telling your Cubase basically to just play back wherever you were in the session. If you switch it on, you play back the area that you're selecting. So let's just make these two changes for the general, for the autosave function, and the transport the playback toggle, and go for OK. So the last part we're looking at in this chapter is our project settings, because these are saved with every session you make. The devices settings and the global settings are stored, but the project setup right here basically is individual with each session you create. So of course you can enter author and company if you want. Start and length is not too important as well. If you're using a video file, for example, if you're doing sound design or composing to a movie, you should make sure that the frame rate actually is the same as in the video. You can either change it right here, or if you got your video already imported, you can say just get from video file and he will just make it the same. Other things, display format is basically changing what you see in your timeline. So for example, this one is set to bars and beats right now. Goes good for music, of course. If you change it to seconds, you'll have seconds, minutes, and all that stuff. So I keep with my bars and beats right now. And let's move on to the last section here, which is actually the audio settings of your project file. So here's where you can change the sample rate. You probably want to be working with either 44.1 or 88.2 if you're handling like music stuff, or if you're going with video files or DVDs or whatever, you probably want to change it to 48. Bit resolution, mine is always set at 24 bits. This basically determines the dynamic you're recording at. I don't know, I don't think 32-bit is necessary for home recording stuff, but 24 is quite well. You can change the file type. I'm using WAV files all the time, though I'm working on a Mac, and AIFF should be the basic format you're using, but I started using Cubase on a PC and WAV file type was set up in the first place, and I kept it to this and I didn't make any changes. So stereo pen law, yeah, it's not too necessary for you, it's just determines volumes you get when you moving your pen fader around. We'll talk about this later on. So let's just have one more look at our Finder or Explorer, whatever, and see what our Cubase session has done already to our tutorial folder. So we see the session file we saved, we see the samples folder that we created in the first place before, and you see Cubase created an audio folder, so whenever you're gonna record any audio track, audio file is gonna start into write this folder. And here you can see, since I'm in the session a little bit longer right now, he's already created my 3 backup files. Yeah, I think that's it for the first episode. We got a Cubase set up properly and could start working in the next episode. If you want to learn something more, in particular about ASIO drivers, configurations and all that kind of stuff, you go to our website at proaudiosquad.com, browse through the studio technology category, and there you'll find a lot more useful information. So I hope you liked this video, and I hope to see you in the next episode.